Super Bowl 60, it is set, and it is the Seattle Seahawks taking on the New England Patriots. Probably not the Super Bowl that a lot of 49ers fans would have hoped to see at Levi's Stadium. Let's get into it. Let's talk AFC, NFC championships, and are the 49ers falling behind on today's Locked On 49ers?
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker at BD Peacock at Coach Crocky. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. And thanks for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Appreciate all you. And we're getting into the offseason, some big picture stuff today as we watched the AFC and NFC championship games and who will go now to the Super Bowl on the 49ers home turf at Levi's Stadium. Stings a little bit a week out from the 49ers just ending their season in the playoffs against those Seattle Seahawks who have advanced here. I think big picture, Croc, with the 49ers, the Niners were just playing, right, a couple of weeks ago. Two wins away from being in the Super Bowl themselves. But I came away watching the Seahawks and Rams feeling like the 49ers, I would have much rather seen the Seahawks and Rams play than the 49ers get beat by either one of those two teams, I think, is what would have happened if they would have gotten to this point. Like, the Niners weren't, injuries were a big part of it too. The 49ers weren't ready to play a game like I saw on the field tonight.
Well, yeah, I mean, we saw that last week. 49ers just got dismantled by the Seattle Seahawks. So clearly they weren't in any type of condition. I'm going to use that word. They weren't
Great
condition to beat one of those teams tonight. And we've seen the 49ers win games throughout this season, but just at this point, what you need to win these type of games, the 49ers just don't quite have that, especially against those teams that I think the things that made them so difficult were really good on both sides of the ball, right? Like, just offense, they were humming. Defense, they're working to get stops. And at times, the quarterback, Sam Darnold makes some throws tonight where it was just like, gosh, it's hard to have a defense to beat that type of play. He's getting hit while throwing it, and he's kind of like short arming it, but still firing a missile to the only place a receiver could catch the ball. Quarterback doing things like that consistently throughout that game. That's just tough. So I think that those were the two right teams. And for most of the season, a lot of people were saying, oh, the Los Angeles Rams, like, that's the best team in the NFC. And then all of a sudden, the Seahawks came screaming back and they got the #1 seed. And it was very clear that those were probably the two best teams in the NFC. So I think the NFL got it right having that matchup. And it was a terrific game to watch.
Did it feel like watching the NFC Championship game? And I know there was some weather in the second half of the AFC Championship game, but did it feel like watching the NFC Championship game that this was one of those like 90s Niners Cowboys, Niners Packers games where we saw the Super Bowl tonight and the Seahawks or whoever won this game was going to go steamroll the team that came out of the AFC? So I kind of felt that way.
Yeah, I even tweeted that out. I said, this game is the Super Bowl. Now, the Vrabel's going to have the Pats ready.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the cool thing. I feel like just kind of the underlying storyline, having new, Seahawks head coach going up against Vrabel. Either one of those guys to win a Super Bowl, I think is going to be, really, really cool. We've been so accustomed to seeing Andy Reid and Bill Belichick win Super Bowls for the past decade that now seeing unfamiliar faces in the Super Bowl in this game, guys recently taking over teams, I think is actually pretty cool.
You know what's wild? The DVOA statistic, which is sort of an all-encompassing advanced statistic that Aaron Schatz, who was the chief analytics guy at ESPN for a long time and now does FTN Fantasy, he came up with the DVOA stat, which is an all-encompassing statistic. And according to DVOA, for the season, the Seahawks-Rams championship game tonight was the highest combined DVOA for the two teams that were playing in a in a postseason matchup in the last 47 years.
Wow.
So the season long, neither one were the top ever DVOA teams by themselves, but put them together, they were both very good. So it was 41% is the DVOA number for the Los Angeles Rams, 39.9%, so very evenly ranked. So a combined 81.1% is the DVOA. So positive is a good number. If you're negative DVOA, you're a bad number. So and you guys can go look up DVOA stat and what it means exactly. But these two combined teams was the best matchup ever, basically, since in the last 47 years, and by quite a bit, because the next highest was a divisional round matchup between the New England Patriots and Jacksonville Jaguars in 2007, and they were 70%, so it was 10% less in that one. And it was even better than going back to 1992, 1992 championship game between the Dallas Cowboys and the San Francisco 49ers. Better than the New England Patriots in 2004 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. New England against San Diego was a big one in 2007. New England was putting up some crazy ones in that 2007 season, 52.4%, which I believe is one of the highest, or if not the highest ever, as far as their DVOA seasons. 2007, was that the Randy Moss New England Patriots year?
Yes.
Yeah, so that was a crazy year for the Pats, and so these two combined years, teams were better.
They were undefeated heading into the Super Bowl game.
Right. That was the helmet. Was that the helmet catch? David Tyree and Eli beating the New England Patriots, ending their undefeated run. So that
was the Tyree year, because the next Super Bowl between those two
was 2010, I believe.
Yeah, that one was, what catch happened in that? Oh, Mario Manningham down the left sideline.
Oh, Manningham, that's right. 49ers legend, Mario Manningham. So yeah, that was these two teams. I'm going to pick the Seahawks to win the Super Bowl, and that's rough for 49ers fans to hear, I think, because they're a good football team. They have the best defense left. The Patriots are going to be good, but I just haven't seen it from Drake May recently. And I think next, Croc, let's talk a little bit about Sam Darnold, and then let's talk about the San Francisco 49ers, where they are, how far behind are they with the teams in their division, because they got to worry about that more than anything else in the entire NFL. Is the two best teams in the NFL this year just happen to be in their very division. And what the 49ers need to do, big picture. Before we start going through this thing with a real fine-tooth comb, probably tomorrow we'll rank, I think, our team needs. We might have to do one offense show, one defense show as far as ranking team needs, and we'll get into all those things. But next, let's talk Sam Darnold and what he has proven now to the world, and maybe to himself a little bit, emotional after the game. Former 49er, if we're talking about 49ers legend, Sam Darnold, and where these 49ers stand in 2026 going into the offseason. Next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by Prize Picks. The big game almost here. There's no better way to stay locked into every moment than with Prize Picks, the daily fantasy app where it always feels good to be right. With football season coming down to its final stretch, now's the perfect time to close it out strong. Prize Picks makes watching the game even more exciting by letting you build simple lineups around player projections, no drafts, no waiting, just football action all the way through the playoffs, and probably have no more fun any time of the year than during the big game. Prize Picks is incredibly easy to get started. Pick two or more players and choose more or less on those player projections on the Prize Picks app. Makes watching games more engaging, especially during playoffs and, of course, the big game. Early payouts as well is a favorite feature of mine because it lets you cash out if a player gets off to a hot start. If you want to catch out, or you can just ride that player. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it is good to be right. This episode is also brought to you by Robinhood Prediction Markets. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood Prediction Markets. It's not just you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood Prediction Markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. You always know the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now you can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, a registered futures commission, merchant, and swap firm. So I saw just kind of a wild tweet in the middle of the football game, Croc. And I want to get the quote right on this tweet. It was, "Let's go Sam Darnold, exclamation, 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 exclamation," tweeted by one at Coach Crocky. What do you have to say for yourself? Rooting for the enemy, Croc, rooting for the quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks.
I'm a Sam Darnold fan. And so there's a couple things there, right? At the age that I am now, I'm able to disassociate like the rivalry aspect of something and like a feel good moment, right? So when I look at somebody like Sam Darnold, I feel like he is all of us, right? Like someone who's been counted out at some point, somebody who's had to battle back from a lot of adversity. When he was going to the 49ers at that point, but we actually said it, and people, I don't think they quite want to hear it, but I was like, Sam Darnold looked like the best quarterback in camp between Trey Lance, Brock Purdy, Sam Darnold. Now also, discretions. Brock Purdy was coming off of an injury.
Yes, that was an arm injury. Trey Lance was in his, he would have been going into his third year at that point, right? And coming off an injury himself.
Yeah. But just watching Sam Darnold and how he's rebounding, and then what he did going to Minnesota, I feel like it's downplayed a lot. Like, bro, won 14 games that year. And people are like, oh, finish trash. That's Sam Darnold. Terrible in the playoffs. So this year, outside of being the 49ers, I want the 49ers to win, of course. But it's like, well, he won another 14 games. So he has won 28 regular season games over the last 2 seasons, which if we're talking about any other quarterback, people be like, wow, that's pretty damn good. But because it's him, they try to kind of like belittle the moment a little bit. And then he goes on, number 1 seed. They beat the 49ers. And then you go on to the NFC Championship and essentially outduel, because he threw for like 370 yards. Like, he outdueled Matthew Stafford to go to the Super Bowl, a guy that people counted out, right? So, on top of that, he's a USC guy. But I just think it was just it's so cool to just see that moment for a guy who has been counted out. Like you said, he probably got a little emotional after the game thinking about it, talking about it. But yeah, I'm a Sam Darnold fan, and I like to root for the underdogs in moments. Once this whole run is over, I'm back to hating the Seahawks. Yeah. But right now, I feel good watching Sam Darnold and what he's doing. It's pretty remarkable.
It's easy to forget because of how Sam Darnold's career started, what he was doing at USC. He was like Caleb Williams before Caleb Williams, right? And he was thought of very highly. And it was actually surprising to some people that he didn't go number 1 in the draft. He fell all the way to the 3rd pick because of the ability that he had. And then he takes the long way around, and I think I say it jokingly, 49ers legend, obviously, right? But I think coming to the 49ers was a big catalyst for him to sit and be in a real offense and be coached by a good coaching staff. And I think that helped him. And then I think he went to Minnesota and was coached again by a good coaching staff and had some good receivers around him. It was like, okay, I can play NFL football and get a little bit more confident. And now playing a game like this, 346 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, outdueling Matthew Stafford, who had 374 passing yards of his own, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions on that side. Nearly identical ratings in this one, 127.6 to 127.8, 81.5 QBR to 82.9 QBR, over 700 passing yards combined between Stafford and Darnold in this one. Darnold came out on top, outdueling Stafford in this one. And I think it's safe to say now, on his way to the Super Bowl, this was the NFC Championship game doing this, Croc, that Sam Darnold has officially beaten the allegations. And we need to start talking different about Sam Darnold.
Yeah, you have to. Now, there's going to be the naysayers who are going to say, but let's see what he does in the Super Bowl, right? But from everything we've seen so far, this year. There's been high moments where we're like, is this guy going to be a legit MVP candidate? Then there's some moments where it's like, good thing they have a really good defense because he didn't play as well. So not sure exactly which one is going to show up in the Super Bowl, but I'm rooting for him. And it's weird because I'm not rooting for Seattle. It's like I don't want Seattle to win the Super Bowl. I also don't want the Patriots to continue to kind of pull away from the 49ers in Super Bowl wins because that would be 7 for them.
I didn't want the Rams to go either. It was not really a good situation for the 49ers. Maybe you're like, go Broncos.
We needed the Broncos to win. That's what we needed.
They lose their starting quarterback, and that game ended 10-7, and there was barely any quarterback play to be had in that football game. Couldn't have been different than how the Seahawks and Rams game was. It's funny. We were talking a little bit about this off the air. I think recently there's been a really good rivalry between the 49ers and the Seahawks, and those, the Pete Carroll Seahawks, the Legion of Boom Seahawks were so easy to hate, especially in the 49ers division, especially with some of those.
I hated the way Pete Carroll chewed gum.
Yeah.
Like I just hated everything.
USC guy, though, Pete Carroll.
Well,
you don't feel about him and Sam Darnold?
Well, not even just a USC guy. It was just that moment because Pete Carroll, he's a Stockton guy. He coached at UOP.
Yeah.
I think he might have played at UOP too, but he definitely coached at UOP. So, he's a Stockton, California guy in my eyes. So I always have a soft place from that standpoint. But during those years, you're talking about 2012, 13, 14.
Yeah.
Then the 49ers were back after that, so it didn't matter. I could not stand him. I couldn't stand him.
It's just
I hated the way he threw a football at practice. Like I watched him at practice, and they had the camera on him. He threw the football. And I'm like, gosh, I hate the way he throws a football.
I hate the way he chews gum. Yeah, that was an easy team to hate. But just I didn't grow up hating the Seahawks. They were in the AFC. I was like, oh yeah, Cortez Kennedy, Chris Warren. Like, why would you hate the Seahawks, right? They were lovable losers of the AFC, and then suddenly they are in the NFC West and they realign. And it's like, oh, and then all of a sudden they're good, and the Niners are good at the same time. And it was like, whoa, this is a crazy brand new rivalry. This is a very new rivalry that's like a decade old with the 49ers and the Seahawks. It's well more ingrained. Rams, Cowboys, right? And even I feel like I would even rank the Chiefs with their dynasty that they're on right now. Super Bowls against the 49ers, that even trumps the NFC Championship games, right? And just the way that has gone, and you don't want to see the Patriots get too far ahead of the Super Bowls either. We don't need to see another dynastic run from the New England Patriots after seeing it for 20 years either, right? So I don't feel like I don't have that same, because I didn't grow up feeling the same way about the Seahawks as I did about the Cowboys or the Dodgers or whoever, right? So it's still a little bit different from that standpoint. So it's easier to be like, yeah, kind of happy for Sam Darnold and seeing him turn his career around. You don't want to see him be too good, and you don't want to see them really start to create some deep separation with the San Francisco 49ers. So on that note, watching these two games and watching how Stafford and the Rams were able to keep up with the Seahawks where the 49ers were not in the last two meetings, I came away really just focusing on Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, and how big of a difference that made with the ability to get open against the Seattle secondary where the 49ers were not able to in that last meeting. You saw Brock Purdy running for his life. And say what you want about Brock Purdy, but he wasn't the reason the 49ers were boat raced against the Seattle Seahawks, right? I think that having more talent at wide receiver, while Kyle Shanahan doesn't feature number ones like a true number one. So like we kind of go back and forth on that, but it's like, but you still need a ton of talent at wide receiver, whether you're creating after the catch or you're getting open or making plays down the field. You got to have something there that is created by the talent at wide receiver.
Yeah, well, I see in the comments there people are asking if the 49ers had Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Kittle, would they have won the playoff game, right? They're more fully healthy. And I would say that heading into the season, we talked about the 49ers being at a disadvantage because of the youthfulness on defense. So I felt like there were always going to be kind of peaks and valleys with how they played on that side of the ball. But then you also look at the offense and what is consistent. But Ricky Pearsall had 100 yards receiving in the first game against Seattle. So clearly he showed that he could be productive against them. Mm-hmm. But you also were always going to need like that version of him. And were you always going to get that from Pearsall, even if he was fully healthy? Maybe, right? And maybe, as the season went on, the injuries just began to be too much. And that's why we saw an inability from him to be able to separate or create separation consistently against Seattle's secondary. But those are definitely things that I guess you have to take into account. But the 49ers, I feel like at their best, both teams, the Seahawks still might have been a little better.
Yeah,
They're just a little bit more ready right now.
That was the other part of it. So like the Pearsall being fully healthy in week 1 and then not having that version of him down the stretch for the 49ers, but then also the where we were projecting in week 1, not knowing how weird this thing was going to get with Brandon Ayuk. It was like, oh, and maybe back mid-season, then working himself near 100% by week 18 and the playoffs, Brandon Ayuk. Right. And you don't have that at all. So now you have the diminished version who's, banged up version of Ricky Pearsall. You have no George Kittle, and you have 0% of Brandon Ayuk when you had hoped that he was going to be getting back to 100% at that point of the time. So it's a big difference in what you hoped you could have. How far away are they? Just one wide receiver one? Like you say, hey, Croc, wave a magic wand, Niners get a wide receiver one. Is that enough?
No.
Okay.
Not against teams that were playing the way they were. Because like you said, Brock Purdy running for his life. And I think there's a combination of things there, right? I think the receiver element to it, but also just the offensive line being a little too leaky as well. 49ers struggled to have any type of consistency running the ball throughout the entire year. So there have been a lot of times where I think the fans have pointed to the offensive line being an issue. And I'm like, really more middle of the pack all year. But this was one year where it felt like, gosh, there is no consistency with the run game. And I feel like that has been a bigger issue with the offensive line this year than any other year that fans have complained about the offensive line.
Let's get a little bit more into that and what the 49ers can do this offseason to be right back in it and on that level in 2026, on the level of what we just saw in the NFC Championship game. Next. This episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by Indeed. If you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important that is when you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for. Trust Indeed sponsored jobs. I've been a hiring manager before, running a cafe. You look, a resume looks good. Someone comes in, sounds good. Good. They spit a good story, right? And then you see them on the job. It's like, no, this is not the right person. Hiring Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get the job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs puts your post at the top of the page and helps you reach the right candidates faster. And instead of struggling to get your job post seen, Indeed sponsored jobs helps your listing stand out and reach quality candidates faster. So you can spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show can get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL. Just go to Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. So wide receiver is a big one. Our last episode we did to end the week last week, Croc, was about wide receivers. Go back and check that episode out. And we talked about different ways, and the 49ers could attack it in trade. And I think there's going to be a nice trade market at wide receiver this offseason. The 49ers can attack it in the draft at pick 27. Now, remember, the 49ers got Ayuk around that neighborhood. Justin Jefferson didn't go that far ahead of where the 49ers are in trade-up range to get a Jackson Smith and Jigba where he went in the draft. CeeDee Lamb where he went in the draft. Justin Jefferson where he went in the draft. You don't have to be drafting in the top 5 to get a top receiver. Puka Nacua was a 5th-round pick, right? Deebo Samuel was an early 2nd-round pick. There are ways to get top. George Pickens going to be the top free agent on the market. He was a deep 2nd-round pick. So there are ways to get top wide receivers and wide receiver ones with the draft capital the 49ers have. Now, you got to pick the right player, and then you got to develop them, and sometimes that can take a little bit of time. Sometimes those top guys show it right away. Is that this draft class? Is that player there? I don't know. But trade, maybe free agency, draft. Those are all possibilities. Offensive line is a big one. Do the 49ers really need to change their outlook on how they value offensive linemen and go big? Like I'm talking, go sign Tyler Linderbaum, go draft a first-round offensive lineman who can play left guard in year one before he bounces out to left tackle and replaces Trent Williams, right? Like, just right away, 40% of your offensive line is better immediately. Is that the way the 49ers maybe need to go and use the trade market for potentially a wide receiver one? Because that would be the way to get the wide receiver one on the trade market and attack the offensive line in the draft, then go free agency on the offensive line as well. Now you got 2 offensive linemen, 2 starters, and a top wide receiver.
I'm definitely piecing together this offensive line through the free agency. I'm throwing at least big money at one position, whether it's center, whether it's guard. You have to figure out a way to kind of solidify that, or maybe it's just a combination. And I think they may be two linemen away from having more, consistent good play. And I don't know if it's as far off as we think, but now the issue is, McKivitz, what happens with him, having to lock him up long term.
Mm-hmm.
Trent Williams, when is he going to retire? So there are areas I feel like over the next couple of years where there could be more holes, but right away, right now, I'm thinking, go get your left guard, get you a center, or you have to do it, whether it's both free agent or one free agent or the draft, and draft multiple bodies to throw at to see what sticks. But you have to get better there, and you need some of the guys to get better as well. Dominic Pooney was as good as you could hope for as a rookie, and this year we did not see that same version of him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an issue as well.
Yeah, he had the PCL injury to start the year, and it just kind of took him off a different path, and he was not the same. Renardo Green, I think that class, feeling really good about that rookie class last offseason, and then all of a sudden in year 2, it's like, well, wait a second. Now I don't feel as strong. Even Malik Mustafa coming back after his injury. He's like, do they have really their safeties, And so Pooney, Renardo Green, Ricky Pearsall, obviously. So I think we feel a lot differently about that draft class. We're like, okay, well, we got to wait and see what happens in year 3 with these guys, because we were kind of crowning the class after year 1. And I feel like that could happen as well with the rookie class, where there's a lot to like and some stuff that you would like to see more of from the 2025 rookie class for the 49ers, but certainly something to build off. And they showed some signs of being a really good rookie class. Here's what's crazy about Tyler Linderbaum. And I've been really at this point, I'm like, go get Tyler Linderbaum, whatever it takes, because centers don't make what offensive tackles make. And in fact, that's why Tyler Linderbaum's a free agent after 4 years, because he's a first round pick. The Ravens didn't pick up his 5th-year option. Croc's lights going out on him. You still look good, Croc. You don't worry about it.
I know. It's keep dying on me right now. My apologies, guys.
The way the 5th-year option works is it just puts all offensive linemen together. So it skews it up toward expensive offensive tackles. So it was actually too much money for them to pick up the 5th-year option on Tyler Linderbaum, even though he's been a great player. So they didn't pick up the 5th-year option because centers make less in a lot of cases than offensive tackles. And remember, we were talking about how they had projected Jawan Jennings to be making $22 million a year or something like that as a free agent for his salary. The top center in the league, Creed Humphrey, makes $18 million a year. And if you put it that way, it's like, wait, so you could pay Tyler Linderbaum at center, the best center you could possibly think about getting on your football team that could be available for you, young player, is 4 years in the league. You could get him for a price per year at or less than what it would take to sign Jawan Jennings. That's an easy one for me, right? That's not even close. You go get Tyler Linderbaum and try to upgrade that offensive line for you. Is getting out I like Jawan Jennings, but I don't, if the price is $22 million a year, that's just tough. Because I don't think you should pay him like a high end number 2, basically. So,
and is Linderbaum going to make more money than Creed Humphrey?
I just think that's the way free agency goes. Creed Humphrey made 18, so you give Tyler Linderbaum 18 and a half. I think that's probably what he'll get.
Yeah.
19 maybe, I don't know, but it would be less than 20 million a year probably, unless there's a bidding war there. John Harbaugh might try to steal him and take him over with the Giants, but the Giants have a young center in John Michael Schmidt, so I don't know if that would be exactly the right way for them to spend money. But anyway, the 49ers have some options this offseason, whether it be trade, whether it be free agency, to hit those 2 biggest spots. And I agree with what we saw in the chat earlier. that offensive line and wide receiver and team speed. Those are like really the big things that jumped out to me. And I think you got to get a better pass rush. I don't love Croc, the idea that the 49ers just spent 2 top 50 picks on defensive linemen, and that you're thinking about maybe you have to spend another first-round pick on a pass rusher because neither of those guys are going to be a good pass rusher in the NFL. That's a one I struggle with saying were those good draft picks, if that's the case, even though I think they're good players. And I think they were worthy of where they were drafted, but you still have a need at the position where you just drafted those guys. And specifically, if you're talking about drafting a defensive tackle, that really rubs me the wrong way because Michael Williams was supposed to be the guy that is able to kick inside at defensive tackle, and then you still drafted another defensive tackle in the top 50. And if neither one of them can give you anything from pushing the inside, you got to draft a first-round defensive tackle, then I think the mistakes were maybe made in last year's draft, because I could see you wanting to add some speed off the edge and somebody who's even a designated pass rusher from the outside, because the whole plan with Michael Williams is maybe he's going to rush from the inside sometimes anyway, right? And then that would all kind of come together. But if you need to draft a first-round defensive tackle after you draft the 2 defensive tackles who could potentially start for you, and Michael Williams, who's supposed to be able to move inside, and you have some other players that are big ends that can move inside, then something I think maybe went a little bit awry there with the draft class last year.
Bryce Huff's pay goes significantly up.
Yeah.
The 49ers keep him because, from my understanding, if I remember correctly, they can let him go with like little to no penalty, or you could pay him what his contract currently is projected at. If I remember, $17 million. It goes up big time.
He fell off, right? From what, like, okay, they got, he's got speed, he's got juice off the edge, and I think maybe it was just without Bosa. Did that hurt him? But it's almost like, hey, you're the only guy that's supposed to be able to create that's left on the roster. Go create. And I feel like there was not as much creating as I think we would have liked to see the second half of the year. Yeah.
Yeah.
But either way, he still only has 1 year left, so you got to develop a guy behind him anyway to have that role. And
there's Keon White too. Yeah,
Keon White's not really that guy who's going to give you a bunch of pressure off the edge either. So I do think edge is the need over anything else, and you better get some interior rush from the guys you already drafted, or else those weren't the right picks. I'm going to go into the chat here really quick for a couple ideas, and again, we're going to get deeper into these team needs for the San Francisco 49ers. What do you think? Niners window's closed. They're too old. You can get real pessimistic with the 49ers roster saying, okay, they are too slow and they're too old and they can't win with their old core, Croc. Trent Williams is 38. George Kittle's 33, coming off an Achilles. Christian McCaffrey doesn't have the juice he used to. He's age 30 and just had a crazy workload. And you know how that goes for guys the next season after a workload like he just had. Is the old core gone? Do the 49ers need an entirely new core for a new Super Bowl window after a weird soft reset where they still made the playoffs in 2025?
Well, we just kind of praised them a little bit, Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, on their ability to consistently put out a competitive team. So, I have maybe more trust in other people. Maybe it's just me being naive or just super optimistic. But I do believe that they'll figure out a way to have more of a quick reload as opposed to a rebuild.
Yeah.
And figure out a way year to year to continue to just get competitive and potentially have a deep playoff push. And they talked about if the 49ers were healthier, could they have beat the Seahawks? I think the answer is maybe, right? I mean, they were just so depleted with injuries. It's really hard to tell. But if you add a couple players, yes, guys are getting older. I think they'll be able to compete.
Still good.
It's tough. It's tough. Also, the thing that I feel like you have to account for is year by year, Brock Purdy getting better and maybe being able to offset some of the deficiencies surrounding him, which I think he did a good job of this season.
Mm-hmm. It depends on what window you're talking about. The 49ers just made the playoffs and won a playoff game as injury depleted as you can be, right? And so a relatively healthy season, the 49ers should be able to make a playoff run. Super Bowl window, like, oh, they're going to go win the Super Bowl. That's a different idea in a different window. I'm not going to say that's closed, because if you can get in the playoffs and be fully healthy and not healthy and win a game, you could get into the playoffs and be, maybe have an easier way path through, like the Patriots have had, and they played against a team that didn't have their starting quarterback, right? And they're in the Super Bowl and they had like a historically easy schedule, right? it ended up being a lot easier than the 49ers schedule that we thought was going to be easy this year. So that's the window is still there for the 49ers to win. They're a well-coached football team, get a good defensive coordinator, and the 49ers will be fine and potentially a lot better with some additions they make in the offseason and just being a healthier football team. Can they stay healthy is the biggest question of all of them in that scenario, I think. Should Kyle and John be on the hot seat? No. That's an easy one. Yeah. If they have a couple losing seasons, then then we probably start talking about some things. But the way that Kyle coached this team this year with all the injuries, no chance. Last one here.
Mike Tomlin had like 15 straight years not winning a playoff game, and he just now parted ways.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the 49ers.
The Niners have been weird though because they've had those crazy losing seasons, or they go to the NFC Championship game. This is the first year they've kind of not even gone to the NFC Championship game. They're still a playoff team though. They're one game away from going to the NFC Championship game. Last one here. Joel says, a few years ago, we were worried about competing against the Chiefs. We now have to worry about LA and Seattle just to get into the playoffs. And I bet the Chiefs will be pretty good again next year. And what about these Patriots with their young quarterback? Yeah, it's never easy to go win a Super Bowl. There's always going to be somebody in your way, right? You don't want that team to be in your way to be in your division, though. And so cool to see Sam Darnold turn his career around and figure things out. Not cool to see the Seahawks become a juggernaut. So let's not see that happen.
Hey, here's a question, because you just talked about 49ers, winning playoff game, but not going to the conference championship game. When was the last time prior to this season that the 49ers went to the postseason and did not go to at least the conference championship game or a Super Bowl?
The last time before this year, I don't know. When they had that weird playoff game against the New York Giants where they couldn't snap the ball to their kicker, right?
Yeah.
It's like you have to go that far back.
Yeah. They lost the next week to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I believe.
Oh, Tampa. Yeah, I don't know.
That might be the last time they went to the postseason and did not go to the conference championship game or a Super Bowl. And that
there was a more recent one. Let us know.
2003.
Yeah, that was Garcia, wasn't it?
Definitely Jeff Garcia.
Yeah, Garcia era. By the way, real quick, RIP to a 49ers great, a true 49ers legend, John Brodie. His number 12 is retired with the San Francisco 49ers. He was an NFL MVP. He played before my time, but he was an all-time great. Stanford, he was a Bay Area guy through and through, Bay Area legend, and passed away at the age of 90. He actually, after his NFL career, where he retired, number 3 in all-time in passing yards when he retired, and won the MVP in, I think, 1970. He turned pro as a golfer, Croc, and even won a senior PGA golf tournament. Like, this dude was a ridiculous athlete. Being on the PGA Tour is no joke. And this guy went from NFL MVP to PGA Tour player and made cuts on the PGA Tour, then went to the senior tour and then was a broadcaster and had a crazy successful life in career and an all-time 49er. And I don't think enough people talk about him. I hear people talk about, okay, who's the best quarterbacks in 49ers history? You go Montana, Young, and then like John Brodie. Like, it's not even close. John Brodie is in that top 3 at quarterback. There's no Brock Purdy over him yet. You got to keep winning. You got to do some things still. Jeff Garcia, no, he's not the 3rd best all-time quarterback. Name your quarterback. John Brodie is in that group. So I just wanted to put that out there. By the way, not enough respect from you, Croc, when I drafted John Brodie in our all-time 49ers drafts, too. So a little bit of that baked in as well.
Yeah. We're going to do that again this offseason.
Yeah, we probably should get Wink involved and do a 3-way 49ers all-time draft.
Somehow we have to, bring a 49er fan on and make them a part of it.
4-way, because then it gets more difficult at quarterback with the more people you have involved, and it gets a little bit deeper with the rosters. You got to make some really interesting decisions with how you put that thing together. My roster did skew older. I had like Leo Namalini and some of the real old school OG 49ers on my roster, some of the $1 million backfield. Go look it up if you're too young to know. I'd never saw any of those guys play, but I know a little bit of the 49ers history with some of that stuff. All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Let us know actually on social media at BD Peacock, at Coach Crocky, in the YouTube comments. What are your team needs in order? We're going to go through this roster with a fine-tooth comb, start talking team needs. We're going to start talking specific NFL draft prospects as well. We'll have mock drafts. We'll talk free agency, of course, and a little conversation about the Super Bowl as well, but not too much Seahawks conversation. I know we had to talk about it today, but we won't go down that road too often here. Thanks for tuning in. Croc and I back tomorrow right here. Locked On 49ers.